I've come to learn about this concept of client zero. What does that mean exactly?
We can lower our SG&A if we focus and take big, bold bets with AI. And that's just what we did. Client zero is us applying AI to operational efficiencies in computing. It's us looking at HR and applying AI to processes. It's us looking at F&A and changing the processes. But it's not about the technology. It's about the people in the process.
As the process speeds up and you're able to make things go more efficiently, and it goes from 6 weeks to 6 hours. Was it 6 hours or 6 minutes?
It was 6 seconds.
6 seconds.
Fixing processes that haven't been checked, challenged, or corrected in 25 years, some in 40 years, making us more efficient, freeing up cash to go acquire more companies to drive revenue, to create a flywheel that's driving IBM.
I'm excited to be here in New York City at the IBM Innovation Lab. And why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what your background is before we dive into some interesting topics?
Absolutely. Well, Chase, first of all, welcome to One Madison and to our client innovation studio. We're excited to have you here today and to be able to share with you what we are working on, especially when it comes to retail. My name's Joe Dittmar. I lead retail for IBM, and it is a privilege to welcome you here and to share with you what we're working on and what we've been doing and how we think, we're aligned with where retail is headed. I grew up in retail, so I've spent my entire career. I started back with Abercrombie and Fitch and took them live on the internet with Mike Jeffries and the team. And ever since then, I've just loved retail. And I have spent my entire career working with retailers or for retailers, including now sitting on the board of directors for the National Retail Federation.
You're deep into the industry.
I live for it.
And at IBM, now you were telling me actually before the interview some of the background of the history. We all know IBM as really a legacy company. Some people think of it as, well, they've always been around, computers. Not many know about the recent.
Well, the history of IBM, if we go back, I don't know that many people know that we're part of the original team in retail. We started with typewriters and registers. We made the registers, the till. Mm-hmm. We invented the credit card. The magnetic strip on the back of the piece of plastic, that's an IBM invention. Mm-hmm. We have been at the forefront of retail, including the SKU. Mm. We have been part of the retail evolution, if you will, from the beginning, through e-commerce, through AI today. Mm-hmm. And we are part of the fabric of retail and have been since the beginning.
Recently, I've come to learn about this concept of client zero, where a lot of retailers look at doing proof of concepts, looking at case studies, but you have IBM a few years ago releasing this concept of client zero. What does that mean exactly?
So while many of our clients and many of these great retailers that we have the privilege to work with, we're testing and building programs, most of which we're facing towards their clients, towards their employees working with their clients, we made a bold move. We looked at all of the processes inside of IBM that are the same processes running at a retailer, at a CPG company, and we said, we can make these better. We can lower our SG&A if we focus and take big, bold bets with AI. And that's just what we did. Client zero is us applying AI to operational efficiencies in computing. It's us looking at HR and applying AI to processes. It's us looking at F&A and changing the processes. But it's not about the technology. It's about the people in the process. We were able to take $3.5 billion of cost out of our operations, making us more efficient, freeing up cash, and allowing us to create a flywheel where we were able to turn that cash into investment to go acquire more companies, to drive revenue, to create a flywheel that's driving IBM.
Did you always see it as we're going to develop it on us first and then release it as a service or an implementation for other organizations?
If you ask our chief transformation officer, she definitely felt like we were testing it out on her. Mm-hmm. That wasn't the case. All the products were GA'd, but it was our proof point. Mm-hmm. It was a moment in time where we could say, while everyone else is testing in small increments, we could take a giant bet, a giant leap forward, and show everyone these processes are ripe for transformation. Mm-hmm. COVID was hard, but inflation plus tariffs makes COVID look like a speed bump. We have grown in size of the back office. We've just continued to increase cost. Mm. Well, a lot of that cost are tied up in the processes that IBM addressed in Client Zero. Mm. So while my clients have been focused on a playbook, engaging their customers and empowering their employees, I've been empowering a playbook that fixes the rest. And you put the two together, and we know we can drive an even faster flywheel with our retail clients.
Mm. That was actually going to be my question about, how does this connect with retail? Being a technology company, great, you've tested it on yourself, but how does that apply to a retailer? They're thinking we're moving products, we've got all these customers and stores to manage.
It's not about the technology. Mm-hmm. It's technology empowered retail. Mm. It's not saying the technology is taking over your design. Mm-hmm. It's not technology taking over your creative. It's technology fixing processes that haven't been checked, challenged, or corrected in 25 years, some in 40 years. They've just been allowed to continue. I'll give you a great example that I think a lot of the marketing audience will love. Mm-hmm. Has anybody seen what it takes to get a banner ad published lately? Or an email out? It's like 47 steps.
Yeah.
You got 6 panel reviews. Why?
Sending it over email, everybody does
email to this, got to go to this review, got to go to that review, got to have a legal review. Mm-hmm. All of that takes time and money. Yeah. The creative person who is the brains of it all barely is any time in the grand scheme of the cost. Mm. A creative person working with a content creation tool with generative AI, they can develop 6 banners and have them all reviewed using the tools within 6 seconds instead of 6 weeks. That's a lot of bloat.
Yeah, it is.
That we just cut out of the system. So I share that with you because that's the kind of process that can be reduced without bias, without, well, so-and-so got away with something because they're friends with the reviewer. Mm-hmm. There's no bias in this.
So you can still have control of the process and quality checks without having it be like a 6-week process.
It collapses it down and when I say all of them, I mean all of them. Warehouse through sales, and everyone in between.
As the process speeds up and you're able to make things go more efficiently, and it goes from 6 weeks to 6 hours. Was it 6 hours or 6 minutes?
It was 6 seconds.
6 seconds.
It was 6 seconds. All of those reviews happen in 6 seconds.
Well, I think of
And
all
you
the...
get to pick which version you want, which emotion you're trying to pull out.
Right.
And it tells you which emotion, the different emotions you can pick from. That the wording and the imagery is drawing out for you so that the creative person is truly being creative. Mm-hmm. And it's got a double check on their work.
I think that's the piece that a lot of companies are worried about. You know, let's use some AI, but it comes up with something that's not approvable.
My art director is the one picking which one to use.
Wow.
They get to choose.
Yep.
They're creative. It's their creative. It's their choice. They just have somebody, they have the system double checking their work and giving through all the approvals. So the system can look through the body of rules and come back to make sure that we haven't violated any rule that any one of the 6 board reviewers would have needed to adjudicate.
6 seconds is pretty much real time, right? And there was an example recently with the US Open where personalization and real time kind of was taking center stage as IBM did a partnership with the US Open.
Yes.
Tell me about the US Open.
The US Open is fun, first of all. We love our partnership with the US Open. It is right around the corner here in New York City. IBM is a New York company. We really, really, really enjoy that partnership. They allow us to collect all of this data from the matches. You know, in real time, we are delivering an experience that describes the play by play, in a multitude of languages as it's happening on your device, streaming live. And that creates an experience that is second to none. And we do that for the Masters. We do that for Wimbledon. We do that, as you're going to see coming up here, for the US Open every year.
Mm-hmm. I think retailers may ask this question: how does these sporting events apply to retail?
Think about all the signals your customer sends you. It's a digital exhaust. Every time they browse, they look at something, they spend 10 seconds on one product, 30 seconds on another, they add something to their cart, they don't open an email, they open an email that has this word in the title but not that word, they click through this SMS that has these words but not those words. Those are all digital exhaust. Think of that as a match. You and them. You're engaged with them. You want to know how to draw them into that match and keep them playing with you. Watson can help you keep them engaged by understanding them as an individual through their digital exhaust and keep that engagement, just like we can predict the winner of that match. We can predict what's the next best action to keep that player in the game, just like we could probably predict what how the tennis player should hit the next ball to win that point.
So there's a lot of crossover actually from a sporting event, especially we look at the broadcast, the live stream. Retail has a lot of, there's live stream component coming into
volume of data,
volume of the data,
volume of the interactions, volume of signals happening all at once, and then picking that next best course, that next best action of engagement.
With with those applications in a sporting event, what are some everyday uses that might apply to a retailer or an e-commerce brand?
So from an e-commerce perspective, and e-commerce is where I grew up, so I absolutely love e-commerce. It can be everything from understanding what categories to promote to a particular customer, when and where we should engage that customer, what cohort they should be in from a marketing perspective. Because while we do want to do a lot of highly personalized marketing, we don't want to only do highly personalized marketing. There is, how do we move you from a particular cohort to another? There is the engagement of what genre of products do we even want to have on our site? If we are moving we can't be all things to all people. There's an Amazon and a Walmart. If the rest of us try to be Amazon and Walmart, we're not going to win. But we have to be true to our brand. And being true to our brand is understanding what that customer is going to do. And we can help with pulling in all of that data and understanding where they're going.
You brought up a good point about personalization, whereas in the world of AI, everybody has talked about personalization and being able to do that at scale. But then if you're doing personalization and every single customer has their own experience, this kind of limits the ability to do A/B testing or A, B, C, D, E, F, G testing, where these cohorts or segments can actually be tested against each other. How do you see that?
So there's two aspects of it. You can focus on personalization on the content supply chain, where it's more of content, but that content is more aligned to what is the hook that gets this particular customer to open. And it becomes inside of a cohort, the A/B testing becomes, do I send it to them or do I not send it to them? And that becomes the A/B test. You withhold people out of cohorts on whether or not you're going to drive a personal message versus a more generic message for that particular group. So there are still methodologies to apply from a marketing perspective. Based on leveraging AI, so that you can still see the differentiation between personalization and non-personalization, and prove your point that personalization is better. But again, a lot of what I'm describing is about the content stream and the creation of that, because to drive that personalized content creation, that's where all the cost is. A human has to create that email campaign. We have great systems out there from Adobe, from partners like Salesforce, that create wonderful, they'll pick the people it needs to go to, decide what category it needs to come from, and then somebody's got to create that content, which then takes 6 weeks. Or it could take 6 seconds.
Right. So that's where Watson is inserted into that workflow.
It can accelerate those products.
The term agentic AI has been used a lot this past year, and I don't know if everyone really knows what agentic AI means versus normal AI or normal automations.
It's an agent that is listening and assisting an employee with their job. From an HR perspective, it's looking at the end of year evaluations and helping score everyone for what they should be improving on, making recommendations for classes they should take, opportunities for improvement based on everything that was reported on that person or captured throughout the year. In finance, it is double checking the work on accounts payable, on accounts receivable, and processing those, and with exceptions coming back asking, hey, I need help to review these. From a procurement perspective, it's agents watching that spend from the company is getting the right discount, that we're buying from the vendors that offered us the best deal, and that we're maximizing our volume discounts, and stopping purchase orders from going out that don't maximize the volume discounts. And it's interacting with the end employee who's trying to buy to say, hey, stop, hold on. I see that you were trying to buy this. This is the same product, but from a different vendor. I'm moving the order to this vendor. It's the same product. You'll still get it on time, but we'll get a better price. But that's a digital agent. It's not a human. Now, that procurement manager is getting credit for that digital agent that works for them, helping them, because they would have done it normally, but that's a simple check. So I hope I gave you some examples of some agentic AI across all of these areas, versus arguing with the pundits on the definition of agentic AI.
Yeah, because it really comes down to how do you apply it, and how does it help the business move forward, save money, create a better experience, really move the company forward. You mentioned integration across different systems. Now, I think that a lot of people might think we have to re-platform and move over onto a new system altogether. And retail is kind of known for having embedded into a lot of different systems, and it's hard to move because it's a living, breathing organization. You can't stop retail for a minute and restart it. Customers are always purchasing.
Chase, I grew up in retail. We had lots of duct tape, baling wire, bubble gum to hold it together. When I was a retailer, that hasn't changed. The back office systems, if it's not broke, we're not fixing it. We don't have margin dollars laying around to replace entire back offices. That just doesn't exist. So the IBM approach has never been, oh, well, you have to replace everything to do something. Well, our approach for Client Zero didn't replace it. Just hook in and go. It's about not throwing away history. It's about hooking into it and helping it move to the future. In some cases, it's dragging it along. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. It is dragging it along. Some of the systems will have to be bubble wrapped along the way, but that's the transformation.
What does that look like for, let's say there's a retailer who wants to begin the process of implementing some of these solutions? Is there a logical first step or first few steps?
So I would say that there's a couple of places that a retailer can start. Many have moved to the cloud. One of the quick material places we tackled the cloud was in consumption. And we tackled our IT spend to the tune of $600 million a year. It was fast. That is something every retailer can do because every retailer moved to the cloud, some portion of their compute. You can also tackle your HR, looking at how you structure and operate HR. You can also tackle HR and the operations area. There are, there are many areas that you can tackle and create this SG&A benefit that then frees up cash flow for the business. Others are going to be able to use it to drive material expansion opportunity. Those are the ones that are going to create a flywheel, because if I can use it for expansion, whether that be horizontal expansion of stores or brands, that's where the flywheel comes into play that will drive up their stock price. We created $64 billion of market cap in the last year by doing this. We took the money we were making, reinvested it, generated more revenue, kept reinvesting it, kept taking cost out. I can't wait to see the number from this year on the additional cost takeout, because each one of these areas that I've talked about today, we're getting better at. Like, perfection is the enemy of progress when it comes to these programs. We just keep getting better at it internally. And I believe every retailer can too.
What areas are you seeing the quickest return on the investment? And not saying that's the best place to start. Maybe that's, maybe.
The quickest return, hands down, is the cloud compute.
Okay.
And the reason for that is, and I get to chuckle here because every CIO will tell you that they have no idea how images and targets are configured in the cloud. Why did we use that much compute and that much disk allocated to that target? They don't know. Some architect decided on an application how much to do it. Well, the truth is that architect architected it that way because they didn't want to get yelled at. They don't ever want it to go down. Because one day it went down and the CEO had to come see them in their cubicle because they took down the business. Well, the truth is, many of these apps are enormous in the cloud, just drawing down money. And we don't know it. As business owners, we don't know. The cloud hyperscalers know. They're enjoying it. But we don't know as business owners. So how do we watch it, monitor it, and move the sizing up and down based on the need of that particular application? That's the fastest savings you're going to get. Okay. Now, over time, you also look at the apps and what do you have out there? I can tell you that many of my clients have redundant apps. They'll have 2 or 3 apps that do the same exact thing, and they're all out there consuming compute, and they just need to know that they need to point it all at one and stop having 3 apps for the same thing.
Reminds me of my subscriptions that I pay for every month.
There's an app for that, to check your subscriptions.
So this is the equivalent
I've
of
known
that.
a few people to have more than one subscription to the same exact application in one household that allows you to share it.
So that's the equivalent of looking at your cloud compute and just kind of looking at it from a big picture. What are you spending compute power on, and how could you make that more efficient? Is that one of the original? Because you mentioned moving to the cloud. Does that moving to the cloud help you see it?
Well, most of the retailers already moved to the cloud.
Right.
What this helps us do is fulfill the promise of what moving to the cloud was supposed to do.
Right, to be able to monitor and then
right.
adjust and control it.
When we moved to the cloud, it was supposed to be this great moment where we were no longer beholden to infrastructure and real estate, and we were supposed to have all this great flexibility. Well, there's tons of flexibility. The problem is where the CIO used to sign off on every box that was bought, so he knew exactly what the size is of every allocation. Now I have a developer or an architect signing off on a target. Mm-hmm. So what used to be a 4 CPU box is now a 16 CPU compute. And no one knows.
Yeah.
Because they can just allocate it to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they're only using 2 CPUs worth of compute. But it's all allocated and reserved full-time year-round. So they're completely over-allocated, but you're paying for all of it. So what we had that problem too. Like, I'm not calling anybody out here. This is not, oh, retail's terrible or banking's terrible. We, IBM, found this in our own house. We found apps that were over-architected for their purpose, for their execution, and we addressed it. It's fast. Within 2 weeks, you can have feedback on which ones are running and consuming which. It's up to you whether or not you want to watch it for a little while and monitor it, and then take action.
I was asking about the fastest return on investment from looking into making this kind of implementation, and compute power was the number one that you
Fastest.
the number one fastest return on investment, and you saw it in your own organization.
With who?
Anything else you're seeing in terms of the retail space? What other investments retailers are making that is paying off quickly, or maybe it's just you're seeing them, bullishly investing in?
I would say almost as a follow-on to what we were doing with IBM in one case was HR. In the other case, we actually did it with the retailer first before we did it to ourselves. And that was customer care and the deflection of calls. With one particular retailer, before COVID hit, we were ramping up a call center customer agent, digital agent, to handle inbound calls to help them with where's my order, status of order, selecting a pickup slot from available times that staffing was available at the store before COVID hit. It was very fortuitous or serendipitous, maybe, that it occurred, but we did it just in time. Literally a month later, COVID hit. The usage spiked through the roof. But it was one of the first digital agents that were helping them talk directly to their consumer. So those are two other areas that are quick to move. The cognitive care one, I think we had that up in 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. And the HR one was 8 weeks. We're much faster on both of those now. And they both involve many systems. So the HR one, we've done it with Workday and with SuccessFactors and with UKG. So got to give my plug for my retail friends.
Yeah.
UKG. But we've done it across retail systems for both cognitive care and for HR.
Do you think some of the investments this year to adjust and adapt to tariffs and inflation set up retailers in a good way for 2026?
So Chase, I think it's a blessing in disguise. In retail, we have, COVID aside, which I think is more like a speed bump compared to what we're going through right now, this is the first externality that has really challenged us since the recession of 2008 financially. This is the first time we've had to take pause. We have been growing from a cost base since 2008. We needed it. This is where we have to check ourselves. does it really take this many people to run our businesses?
Mm.
Does it really take all of these processes? Are they really necessary? Do I need this many stores? Should some of these stores be a different brand? Do I need to create another brand, a competing brand, or maybe address a different genre of customer? Is my customer aging out? It's one of my favorite questions I asked a client back in 2008 in the UK. Your client's old. What are you doing to get the next generation?
Yeah.
And it's a very historic brand, and it was a very American thing to do to them, but it caused pause. Well, hopefully this year is causing pause and challenging us to our core, to address our SG&A, to address our size, to address our shape, for us to get back into shape as retailers. And if we use AI and Agentic AI to get back into shape, great. Let's not just move the people around the organization. Let's repurpose them on new revenue streams.
Yeah.
If we just move them around the organization and they're not attached to new revenue streams, then no, we didn't learn a lesson and this year was a waste. They have to be repurposed for new revenue streams, or we won't get the flywheel effect.
It's a heavy task.
But it's a worthy task. These are brands that are amazing, that delight consumers, that delight kids, that make it possible for mom and dad to feed the family, to clothe the family, to bring joy year round. It's a worthy cause. The question is, are they ready to lead? Are the retailers ready to lead and step into this?
Well spoken. Joe, this has been a great interview. I really appreciate you taking the time with me and inviting me to the Innovation Lab here in New York City.
No, thank you, Chase. I appreciate it. It's been fun.